From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. It's great to be back in the United States of America and back in the studio after a week in Tel Aviv. And by the way, that picture right there, that was the view from my hotel room, which was breathtaking and unbelievable. And yes, it was just as good as it sounds. The full article with a lot of my reflections is available on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. Free for everyone to go and check out. We also have paid content. This is not part of our paid content. This is our free content, so you can go check it out there. While you're there, you can actually get this episode after the fact in written format, not a transcript, but a great summary, the action list, and a to-do list that you can share across your organization or with your peers and other folks within your team to help get everyone synced in on what's happening in cybersecurity. Let's get into this morning's episode. A lot to talk about. Before we kick off this morning, while in Israel, I brought a lot of espresso because here's the thing. I've got capsule machines and I've got bean machines, and just the capsules in Israel are just so much better. They are. They just are. I don't know how to explain it. Don't know what to tell you about it. Israel's a very big espresso country. The coffee shop scene there is definitely in full-fledged. You walk down the streets of Tel Aviv, every other store, every other shop is a coffee shop, and people are drinking coffee, eating their baked goods and all that good stuff. And so I bought a lot of espresso. Lots of espresso. So with that being said, here's Elite Coffee Turkish Blend. And it's really good. Like, I tried it over the weekend when I got back to kind of help fuel my jet lag so I wouldn't be jet lagged. And boy, oh boy. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. It's so good. I'll show you the box. I'll take a picture of the box, post it, but it's good. It's really, really good. All right, let's kick off this morning because we've got...
There is a security breach.
Multiples, in fact, to talk about. Starting with Sam's Club, the Walmart-owned Costco competitor warehouse supermarket chain is now essentially... Clop Ransomware has added Sam's Club to their dark web leak site on Friday. Sam's Club, for their end, are saying that they're aware of the reports regarding a potential cybersecurity incident and are investigating the manner. But as of yet, they haven't officially acknowledged the fact of whether or not the data is real and the breach is real. Now, Clop is a ransomware gang, meaning that this would have had to be a ransomware attack unless Clop has changed their TTPs and IOCs. And if that's the case, then they could have breached Sam's Club, stolen data, and then just are holding that data as kind of a ransom per se. But that's weird because that really doesn't go after them. Now, Clop are known previously for their Clio Secure File FTP type of attack, that zero-day vulnerability CVE 2024-50623. They found a new game because they didn't really always launch ransomware attacks, although they did in some cases. In other cases, they did exactly what they're doing to Sam's Club, saying we've stole your data, we have it, pay us or otherwise. So we'll see what happens here. Our eyes are fixated to Bentonville, Arkansas, and the news coming out of Sam's Club. But nonetheless, again, the kind of movement here is significant. Now, when you look at this as a practitioner and you go, why do I care? Well, for a few reasons, because if ransomware gangs are compromising supply chain vendors, that they're stealing your data, then they're posting you on a ransom site, on kind of a data leak site, that has the recipe for disaster. And what I mean by that, not in terms of the cybersecurity team, but in terms of just business continuity for the organization. Because you're trying to investigate something that your environment wasn't triggered. And now you're going to have to go through your third and fourth and fifth body. And now you're going to ask the threat actors, likely who've reached out for you, for proof of whatever data they have in order to validate that data. Once you validate that data, at that point, you're going to have to identify who in your environment has it. Now, Sam's Club is no small feat. It's not like they've got 50 third-party companies that process data. Chances are it's 100 or maybe 200 times more than that, likely in the 10,000 to 20, 30, 50, or 100,000 different third or fourth party companies that are processing data or helping support various business aspects of Sam's Club. So they're literally searching for a needle in the haystack here, right? That's what I mean by what this means as a practitioner. And this goes to the idea of what tools exist within their arsenal in order to really zoom in at where potentially this is coming from. My guess is this is a third party breach that's impacting Sam's Club. Sam's Club environment wasn't breached. But put that out there now. If there was a betting line, I'd put it out there. You know, I'm not saying you should bet on my stuff, but if you do, that's my guess here. Oracle, for their end, are still not confirming the data breach, although they're now working with customers on dealing with it. This is coming specifically from Oracle Health, who's used as healthcare software as a service company. And they offer essentially electronic health record and business operation systems to hospital and healthcare organizations. Oracle Health was formerly known as Cerner or Cerner. It was acquired by Oracle in 2022 and merged into Oracle Health, with its system migrated to Oracle Cloud. A notice sent to customers and seen by Bleeping Computer has said that Oracle Health became aware of a breach of a legacy Cerner data migration server back in February 20th of last month. They're writing to inform them that in and around that, they became aware of a cybersecurity event involving unauthorized access to some amount of your Cerner or Oracle Health data that was on the old legacy server, not yet migrated to the Oracle Cloud. Oracle says the threat actors used compromised customer credentials to breach the servers sometimes after January 22nd, 2025. Now, that breached credentials matches the big event at Oracle Cloud, which hasn't yet been violated, where LDAP and all kinds of different keys and all kinds of different information was stolen there as well. So we'll see the LDAP authentication and SSO servers for Oracle Clouds federated. Could that have had an impact on Oracle Health? Just too close not to be related. Like, if they're two unrelated items, I will eat my hat on this one. Absolutely eat my hat on this one. But the betting person I am, I'm not. Well, some organizations are getting ahead of this. That includes the United Arab Emirates in kind of a fluff piece here at the Cyber Express. They're talking about the fact that they know that they're victimized by the Oracle Cloud breach, that 634 government and private entities could have been impacted, including 30 government agencies, along with key private sector organization. So and then again, this is a fluff piece, right? So it's a fluff piece. The only thing that matters here to me is that the UAE cybersecurity center there essentially says, we know we've been victimized by the Oracle Cloud SSO and LDAP system. It's likely going to expose around 6 million customer records worldwide. But for them, that includes 30 government agencies. The UAE is a country of 10 million people, 1 million Emiratis, 9 million expats. So you can imagine there. So if 30 of their government agencies, that's pretty much a worst case scenario for the Emirates. That's everyone everywhere. And all of their systems in the government really talk to each other. That's the one thing about the Emiratis, is they've really fell into kind of like streamlining government, at least in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, which are two separate states from like Sharjah and Ras Al Khaimah and Ras Al Ain and Ajman and all these other places there. So having said that, and very familiar with that ecosystem, I can tell you this is a fluff piece about how they're saying, like, we're going to take this stuff seriously, and we're working on it, and they're interviewing all these various Emirati people. Again, all great. Nonetheless, you're only as strong as your supply chain. When supply chain events happen, there's little you can do to talk about it, because you're literally relying on your supply chain. And so there's that there as well. And again, fluff piece, you can go read it if you like. It's the Emiratis never like anything critical of them. So just understand, like, when you find something critical of an Emirati, just that person's got a death wish at some point somewhere, pretty much. All right, we'll continue with solar power becoming increasingly important, especially in the US and Europe, as a kind of third or fourth party source of energy production. Many people have solar roofs. Many people who live off the grid use solar as a way to essentially power their lives, and nothing wrong with that. Solar energy is very popular. I can tell you that in one of the things a lot of people in our delegation found in Israel is there was a lot of solar everywhere. On every roof of almost every building, there was a solar panel with a water heater. That was just one of the ways Israel heats water in order to reduce the impact on the grid. And so, I mean, I remember when I was a kid or when I lived there, like, I had a solar power water heater. Good days, they had solar power. Other days, you'd use electricity to power it up. It is what it is. All right. So Forescout here talking about 90 different vulnerabilities impacting the various systems that are powered by solar. Those include products from SunGrow, Growot, and SMA. The main components of the solar plant are the solar panels, which generate DC power, and the inverters, which convert the DC power to AC power, enabling the harvested electricity to be fed into a commercial grid and said locally. And so a lot of this stuff is kind of normal type of vulnerabilities that exist within OT type products. However, one of these really stood out. The impacted vendors have all been notified, but there was a few reported vulnerabilities that could allow, and I'm trying to find it here in the article. It was just in front of me. And it disappeared. So I'll find it here in just a second. But anyways, one of these vulnerabilities would allow attackers to actually jump into the grid and actually impact the inverters. And so this is it right here. So they can hypothesize that an attacker that gained control of a larger fleet of the SunGrow, Growwatt, or SME inverters using the newly discovered vulnerabilities could control enough power to cause instability to the power grid there. So that doesn't typically exist within the specific ways our systems are set up in traditional steam, gas, or nuclear power plants. But in solar, that could be the case. And again, this is impacting solar power plants and not necessarily private solar panels. But you want to make sure you update both and you get these patched up if you can, if that's something within your wheelhouse. Mozilla is saying FireFox developers have determined that their browser is affected by a critical vulnerability that's similar to the Chrome Zeroday vulnerability disclosed just a few days ago. Google announcing the Zeroday vulnerability that they patched CVE 2025-2783, which was reported to Google by Kaspersky, whose researchers saw it as being exploited in attacks aimed at Russian organizations. Kaspersky said it's being exploited since at least mid-March by what is likely a state-sponsored threat actor to escape Chrome's sandbox. The exploit chain also targeted another vulnerability, which Kaspersky was unable to identify to achieve remote code execution. FireFox have now analyzed this Zeroday and found a similar pattern that also exists in their IPC code. The issue describes as an incorrect handle that can allow a compromised child process to cause the parent process to return an unintentionally powerful handle, leading to a sandbox escape. In this case, FireFox is tracked as CVE 2025-2857. The flaw is only impacting FireFox for Windows, and it was patched in with the latest version release of 136.0.4, 128.8.1 ESR, and 115.21.1 ESR. And again, it's only impacting Windows, not anything else. Splunk, for their end, last week announced patches for dozens of vulnerabilities across their products, including 2 high-severity flaws in Splunk Enterprise and Secure Gateway app. The Enterprise monitoring solution received patches for a remote code execution bug that could be exploited by low-privileged users by uploading a file to the Splunk home directory. CVE 2025-20229er has a CVSS score of 8.0, and it's caused by a missing authentication check, which was addressed with the release of Splunk Enterprise versions 9.4.0, 9.3.3, 9.2.5, and 9.1.8, and the cloud versions, again, all available there, and you can find it at our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. So Splunk Mobile Space Bridge and Mission Control rely on the functionality in Splunk Secure Gateway app, and if you do not use any of the app's features or functionalities of potential mitigation, you may remove or disable it altogether. The DOJ seizing $8.2 million worth of USDT Tether crypto that was stolen via romance baiting scams. So these were known as kind of like the types of scams where you're kind of told to invest in something and you're convinced you're making a profit. Meanwhile, you're not. But as you're making a profit, they're getting you to put more and more and more money in, increase your chances. But then really you're just trading on nothing. and then the threat actors run away with your money. Blockchain intel firm TRM Labs reported U.S. state investigators, primarily the FBI, uncovered the laundering patterns of amounts linked to romance baiting operators, enabling them to file a dual legal forfeiture of wire fraud and money laundering that allowed the full seizure of assets. Tether Limited froze the funds in June of 2024, burnt the original USDT tokens, and reissued them into law enforcement-controlled wallets back in November. And you can see the seizure pathway here. We'll have that available on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. A Russian-speaking threat actor tracked as Red Curl has been observed deploying ransomware in some campaign, in a new recent campaign, according to Bitdefender. Earth Caper or Red Wolf has been active since at least 2018. It's focused primarily on corporate espionage, targeting organizations in the U.S., with some additional victims in Germany, Spain, and Mexico. The threat actor, maintaining a low profile, uses readily available tools for intrusion and data exfiltration, and started employing a new ransomware dubbed QW Crypt, which marks a significant shift in their tactics. The group relies on phishing emails containing IMG, containing an SCR file masquerading as a CV. The SCR file is a renamed copy of a legitimate Adobe executable, vulnerable to DLL sideloading. The loaded DLL then directs the victim to a login page, which fetches a payload in the background, a scheduled task that is created for persistent, executes the payload indirectly. The variant of QW Crypt relies on Red Curl and deploys in attacks, only targets hypervisors, encrypting the virtual machines hosted on them and disabling the organization's entire virtualized infrastructure. VMs that act as a gateway. VMs that act as gateways are not encrypted, and the analyzed batch scripts suggest a highly targeted operation there. All in all, their revenue generation and operational objectives remain shrewd in mystery, particularly given their sustained activity since 2018, likely associated with some sort of state-sponsored type of activity rather than criminal. And the UK is bracing for a free speech row with JD Vance, but I think they're going to have one with their own citizens before they have one with the vice president. So the UK passed the Online Safety Act type of deal, right? But if you've been, unless you've been living under a rock, you've been watching videos of cops showing up to people's houses because they've criticized someone on WhatsApp or on social media, and they're getting arrested for criticizing people. I guess in the Online Safety Act, you're not allowed to criticize government or anyone in any sort of elected office. That's a no-no. So there's several U.S. websites that have now disagreed to that won't comply with any of the requests coming from the UK. The UK, for their end, are trying to kind of keep this under wraps. They don't want a free speech fight right now going on with the White House. Not at this time, not when that doesn't make a lot of sense for the UK or for the US for that matter. But it does make sense for people in the UK whose free speech is being infringed upon by this new Online Safety Act, and have cops showed up. I mean, I watched a video over the weekend of parents who criticized the school board, had 6 police officers show up and arrest them in front of their kids because, that's all about protecting the UK and the elected officials rather than the rights of the citizens there. Fall of the big comes shortly after depressing the few and the people there. That's exactly what the UK is doing. Their battle's not with the White House or anyone else. Their battle is with anyone who believes in Western civilization, freedom of speech, and people's right to be able to criticize the people that they elect. The moment you take that away, you're no longer a democracy. You're a dictatorship, and you might as well just let the crown run the show and just disband everything else around it, because it just becomes a shell of a show. So there's that. And the Record obviously does a horrible job of covering this. I mean, they went right into platforms that are like neo-Nazi users or others, which, again, bad platforms shouldn't exist. Freedom of speech gives them the right to exist. People who use them, that are entitled to do so in a free country. And if the moment you censor one of those platforms, I have this debate constantly with folks, is the moment you agree to censor one thing, then you're agreeing that at some point your voice could be censored because of that very same reason you want to censor something else. Freedom of speech allows dispute of all the garbage you hear, and then allows the discerning of information. And if you don't trust people to discern information, then you shouldn't be among people. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, live with all the latest and greatest news. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.